The pen snapped in Charles's grip with a sound like a bone breaking. Black ink bled across his palm as the plastic shreds bit into his skin. One surreal moment. He stared at the mess in his hand, half expecting blood instead of ink. Around him, a few heads turned, brief, perfunctory glances, before returning their attention to the speaker at the front of the room. The host hadn't even paused. "Recidivism rates are our best friend," the man was saying, pointer finger tapping against the graph projecting on the wall. "Every time one of these kids goes back inside, it's another 3 years of guaranteed return for our investors. We are already talking to the judges to see if we can get some help in the courts." Charles' stomach rolled. He remembered the last month's A&R meeting, when he pitched Jamal, a 19-year-old from Inglewood with a flow like liquid gold and lyrics that cut like a surgeon operating on sick America. The room had yawned. "Not enough edge," someone had said. "Where's the energy?" another had asked. Now he understood what they really meant. The air conditioning kicked on with a hum, raising goosebumps on Charles's arm. He became acutely aware of the room's temperature, how carefully controlled it was. The contrast between this room and the sweltering visiting rooms he'd seen in documentaries about prisons. His dress shirt clung to his back with sweat. To his left, Melissa from marketing adjusted her glasses and scribbled notes. To his right, Angel from legal tapped quietly on his laptop. No one was screaming. No one was walking out. The normalcy of it made Charles want to tear his hair out. When the host opened the floor for questions, a young woman near the front raised her hand. "Isn't this... ethically?" "Ethics are for non-profits," the host chuckled. And the room laughed with him. Some were nervous, but they laughed nonetheless. The labels were incentivizing us to create criminals to help them make money. The NDAs made sense now. Charles watched the woman's hand slowly lower back to the table. The parking garage smelled of gasoline and stale concrete. He snuck out without socializing. His footsteps from these fancy shoes echoed as if mocking how the price tag didn't disclose the real cost. Charles walked past his BMW twice before recognizing it. His mind still back in that conference room. When he finally slid into the driver's seat, he realized he'd been holding his breath. He turned the key in the ignition with trembling hands. He started driving as if he was on autopilot until he realized that it was silent. He turned the radio on and the car blared to life. He scrambled to change the station from the sudden noise. Fumbling with the controls, he switched to his CD. Stevie Wonder's Higher Ground filled the car, the opening chords usually so comforting. People keep on learning. Charles' vision blurred. He'd seen Stevie in concert last year with Nicole. She sung every word under her breath, her body swaying against the cheap seats. He remembered how she explained living for the city. She cried while explaining the story of the black boy framed by the system. Charles had held her tight, whispering how things would be different for them and their kids. Now, his foot slammed on the brake as a wave of nausea hit. He barely got the door open before vomiting onto the asphalt. Strings of saliva hung from his lips as he gasped for air. A passing car honked. Nicole's apartment building glowed like a beacon of light. Charles parked haphazardly, not bothering to straighten the wheel. His dress shoes clicked against the pavement as he walked toward her door, each step heavier than the last. "Yo, white boy." Charles didn't even turn. Dion, Nicole's neighbor, was holding court on the stoop with a few friends, passing a cigarette between them. The smell of tobacco mixed with the night-blooming jasmine Nicole had planted last spring. "Damn," Dion continued louder now. "Your girl been pacing all night. Wouldn't shut up about her snowflake working late again." Normally Charles would have a comeback. He'd lean into the bit, pretend to be a racist cop, maybe even flip Dion off with a grin. Nicole loved that about him, how he can take as good as he got. But tonight, the nickname curdled in his stomach. He raised a hand in weak acknowledgement and, afraid if he opened his mouth he'd vomit again. He used his keys to get inside and shut the door like Dion would find out what he was hiding. He turned away from the door to the inside of the kitchen, and Nicole stood there in one of his old college t-shirts. The fabric stretched thin across her shoulders. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, revealing the gold hoops she brought for her birthday. The sight of her, whole and real and beautiful, made his throat close up. "Jesus, Charles." Her hand flew to his face immediately, thumbs brushing his cheekbones. "You're as white as a sheet. What happened?" Her touch undid him. He could feel the calluses on her fingers from hours spent playing the guitar, the warmth of her skin against his clammy cheeks. She smelled like coconut oil and that vanilla lotion she loved. He opened his mouth, closed it. The words piled up behind his teeth. The meeting, the prisons, the way everyone had just nodded along. But looking into Nicole's eyes, seeing that trust there, the absolute certainty that he would be there for her, a sob tore from his chest. Nicole's brows furrowed. "Baby, talk to me. You're scaring me." But how could he? How could he explain that he had sat in a room and said nothing? That the industry that they had both loved was being expanded on by the bones of kids like Jamal? That he'd benefited from a system designed to destroy people who looked like her? Her thumbs stilled against his skin. Charles? He couldn't do it. He couldn't watch the light in her eyes dim as she realized what he was. Charles hid his face.